Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's great to see you here today. Before I actually start my welcome, I want to point out that there are going to be a few variations in the order of service because our wonderful accompanist, Barbara Young, tested positive for COVID yesterday. So fortunately, we have an abundance of talent and generosity in this congregation. So our accompanist today will be JoLynn Page, who we're really happy to have back with us today. And then Anne-Marie Van Patten, Kim Grebe, and Amanda Mangiardi are all going to be stepping in to make sure that we have beautiful music. The other variation in your order of service is that, unfortunately, Jack Langford is not able to join us for the service today. So, but welcome to this service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Grand Traverse, and welcome to those of you who are here in our sanctuary, and also those of you who are joining us via streaming. And I'm Pam Hendrick. I'm a member of the Sunday Services Committee. And I know that you all come here for many diverse reasons, for comfort, for community, for answers to questions, for questions about conventional answers, and no matter your beliefs or identities, you're welcome to bring your whole self to this place of a wide embrace. Do we have any visitors here today who'd be comfortable introducing yourselves? No new visitors today. But we hope everybody will stay after the service for our hospitality. And if you have a joy or a concern today that you want to share with the congregation, you can write it in the book that is right over there, and write legibly, because Mary Ann will read it out loud later in the service. And also know that you are welcome to light a candle at any time during the service for a joy and concern that you're holding in your heart. So this right now is a really remarkable cluster of days, and we have beautiful weather to attest to that. The days are balanced between sunlight and darkness. The seasons are balanced between summer and fall. The equinox occurred yesterday at 2:49 a.m. And tonight at sundown marks the beginning of Yom Kippur, the high holy day of atonement in the Jewish faith. Atonement, too, is about balance, restoring spiritual balance as we forgive and seek forgiveness for the trespasses of the past year. And in astrological time, we're now under the sign of Libra, characterized by balance, equanimity, and equality. As we embrace this special time of balance, today we will share with you insights of some of the members of our beloved community as we reflect on finding balance in our lives. So your prelude today by Amanda Mangiardi is Breathe In. Please enjoy it. As we enter into this time of worshiping together, it's our ritual practice to light our chalice in community with other Unitarian Universalist congregations across the world. This morning, I've chosen words by Sharon Wiley, "The Balance We Seek." The hours of day and night are in balance. In honor of earth-centered traditions that celebrate this time of year, we observe that the flaming chalice holds the elements of the four directions: earth, air, fire, and water. The lamp oil for earth, the air that feeds the flame, the fire we light, and the chalice itself, the cup, the symbol of water. We light our chalice and reflect on balance we seek in our lives, the balance we seek in our hearts, the balance we seek in our world. And we sound our singing bowl in the Buddhist tradition as we allow its sound to carry us to a place of listening and reflection. Join us now in singing hymn number 1068 in the Teal Hymnal, Rising Green. I'm going to tell you a story. And I have long believed in the healing and teaching power of storytelling. So back, just as a preface, back when I was in the early part of my career and raising, along with my husband, a small child, there were just hundreds of articles about work-family or work-life balance, and also about the Wonder Women who could balance a super high-power career with a home and family that would make Martha Stewart green with envy. And I don't know about you, but I found that all really depressing. And I kept looking for that balance as something to hold on to and make permanent. If only I could get this job or that promotion, if my family could get through this crisis, if we can afford to buy that house, if only, right? And then, if only, order will rain down upon our lives. So one weekend during this time, and about this time of year, we met my sister and her family for a short camping trip near La Crosse, Wisconsin. And the town was holding a storytelling festival. There were lots of really, really interesting storytellers there, but one storyteller in particular stood out to me and really had a profound effect on me. He was Iroquois, and his story was in part about the Iroquois creation myth. Since then, I found a whole lots of variations of that story, but essentially it goes like this. Sky Mother lived with the other sky deities in the sky, but one day she fell to earth. Now, in some versions, Sky Father who is her father, pushes her to earth because she is pregnant by somebody he doesn't approve of. In other versions, Sky Father is her husband and pushes Sky Mother to earth because she is pregnant and he doesn't really want that child. And in some versions, she simply accidentally falls through a hole in the sky to the earth. And in any case, she is pregnant. And she lands on the back of the great turtle, who is swimming in all water, and she begins to create the earth from the mud at the bottom of the water. And eventually she gives birth to twins. The first is born naturally, vaginally. The second is impatient, waiting for his brother to get born, and so he forces his way out through her side. This is a premonition of what is to come. The first son becomes the god of order and is known as Deer because he represents all that is smooth and graceful. The other is Chaos, known as Flint, because he is hard and sharp. There's lots of sibling rivalry going on here. And the constant tension between these two has a great effect on life on Earth. For example, Deer God, God of order, first made all the rivers run in both directions. So how convenient. If you canoed down one river one way, you could turn around and canoe up the other way, and you'd have the current on your side. But the god of chaos, Flint God, fought to make all rivers run in only one direction. So, of course, if you take the stream downriver with the current, you have to fight the current if you want to go back upriver. And obviously, Flint won that battle. So sometimes order wins, and sometimes chaos. But what really resonated with me that beautiful sunny day in Wisconsin was the storyteller's conclusion. He told us that life will never be all order or all chaos. And this is important, you have to pay homage to both of the twin gods. They both need respect. Going forward, there are a lot of times in my life I'm reminded myself of this wisdom, to stop thinking, if only, and to meet life as it lies. and to, really treasure the brief times of true balance, because they won't last. And I've come to find a measure of mental, emotional stability in the precariousness of balance. Balance, by its very nature, is brief, liminal, bound to tip one way or the other. So balance isn't about all order and no chaos. Balance is about accepting that life will hold both and find the way to live with that. And I think this Iroquois story also helped me define my own agnostic faith, because I am in awe of what I perceive as a divine mystery of existence, the creative and the destructive forces in the universe. Creative and destructive. One can't exist without the other. There must be balance between the two.
It's time, a time for all ages. And this morning's story is Chicken Sunday. And I'll move this a little bit. There we go. Would you like to come up, Aiden, or no? You can hear it from there. I kind of thought that was going to be the answer. And that's fine, because everybody can hear. These are the characters in our story. The two boys, Stuart and Winston, and the girl who is in fact Patricia Polacco, who wrote the story. This is a true story. It actually happened to her. And as Pam was talking about balance, I think of this story with a lot of balance, a balance of love, a balance of trust, and a balance of some difficulty too. So here is our story. Stuart and Winston were my neighbors. I'm going to show the picture and then I'm going to do the story. They were my brothers by a solemn ceremony that we had done 2 summers ago. They weren't the same religion that I was. They were Baptists, and their grandma, Miss Eula May Walker, was my grandma now, because my grandma had died 2 summers ago. I didn't call her grandma, I called her babushka, because that's what I learned when I was little. Sometimes my mother let me go to church on Sunday with them, and we would walk to the church and back. We loved to hear Miss Eula sing. She had a voice like slow thunder and sweet rain. As we walked home, we would walk past Mr. Kodinsky's hat shop. Do you remember the day when there used to be a hat shop? There did. And Miss Eula would always stop and look in the window and admire the hats. And then she would sigh and walk on. We called Sundays when Miss Eula made chicken Sundays. We would sit around the table and share the meal together. And one Sunday at the table, she took a deep breath and then told us something that we really already knew. That hat in Mr. Kodinsky's window is the most beautiful hat I think I've ever seen. The 3 of us looked at each other. We wanted to get her that hat more than anything in the world. Later on, Stuart reached into our private hole in the tree where we kept the money that we'd been earning and pulled it out, and we counted it, and it wasn't enough. So we knew we had to do something to earn some more. And so Stuart said, maybe we should go ask Mr. Kadinsky if we could sweep out his shop or something like that. I don't know, Winnie said fearfully. He doesn't smile. He doesn't talk to people very much, and he looks kind of mean. But we decided to go anyway. And the next day, we cut down the alley behind Mr. Kadinsky's store, just as some bigger boys were running away, and we could see that they had thrown eggs on the door. They were shouting. All of a sudden, Mr. Kadinsky opened the back door, and there we were. And he said, "Why do you children do things like this? I just want to live a quiet life." And we said, "We didn't do it. It wasn't us. We didn't do it. I am calling your grandma." And he went back in the store. Miss Eula was waiting in the living room for us when we got back home. She was very upset. "Miss Eula, we didn't throw the eggs," I cried. "Some big boys did it," said Stuart and Winnie. "Baby dears, I want to believe you. Heaven knows I taught you never to lie, and I really want to believe you. But now Mr. Kadinsky thinks you're not good people. You are going to have to change his mind." Well, the next day we were sitting in my kitchen, trying to think of how we could do that. Oh, he still thinks that we threw the eggs. Eggs. That's our problem, eggs. Eggs, I thought. I know just what we can do. I went to the kitchen drawer and I took out a lump of beeswax and a candle and a small funnel with a wooden handle and some packages of yellow, red, and black dye. Can you guess what we were going to do? No. Okay. Mom helped me teach the boys how to decorate the eggs the way Bubba had taught me. She said that's how they did it in the old country. First put a design on with hot wax, and then dye the egg, and then take the hot wax off. And we each made an egg. We decided to take them right to Mr. Kadinsky because then he would know we were telling the truth. We put the egg basket up on his shelf, and he raised his eyebrow, and then he said, "Spasiba, spasiba," which means thank you in Russian. And he looked more carefully at the eggs, and he said, "You have brought me pasanki eggs. I have not seen these since last I was in my homeland." I don't want to have to start crying. And then he looked at us. He said, "You have told me that you did not throw the eggs. Now, I think you have great courage to come here, though you're afraid. Chutzpah," he said. "You have lots of chutzpah." That's courage. And he asked us to please stay for the afternoon and enjoy some tea and poppy seed cake. We spent the whole afternoon talking to each other, telling about our lives. He told us about his life, and we had a lovely time. We were trying to think about how to make enough money. "Do you know," said Mr. Kadinsky, "your eggs are as beautiful as my hats. I think you should make some more and set up a table in my store and sell them to people. I think people would buy them. It's almost Easter, so it's a good time for that." We worked for the next few days, and we were able to make a dozen eggs and brought them into the shop. When people saw them, they said things like, "Oh, intricate, glorious, beautiful, splendid." and we sold them all in a single day. Just as we were about to tell Mr. Kadinsky that we had enough money to buy the hat, he came out of a storeroom with a gift-wrapped box. I've seen Miss Eula admire this hat, and I think it's what you children were planning to do with your money. You may give it to her with our blessing. Tell her that now I know you are very good children, very good. When Easter Sunday arrived, we gave the gift to Miss Eula, and we were thrilled as she hugged us and tears ran down her cheeks. She was so grateful. Then she wore her hat to church, and we went along, and when we waited and waited for her to sing, she finally sang, and we knew that she was singing right to us. And her voice was like slow thunder and sweet rain. That's our story for today.
Generosity of heart and mind and spirit is a virtue upheld by our community. Generosity is essential in the ongoing crucial work of our congregation. So as we pass the basket here in the sanctuary, be aware they have two sides, one to sustain our congregation and one for those in need in our community. And for those of you joining us remotely, you can still send your contributions to the UUCGT in 3 ways. You can mail a check to the congregation, you can visit the UUCGT website, you can use your phone by downloading the Vanco mobile app. And really, please know that your generosity is so very much appreciated, and that we really do take great care in putting your gifts to good use. Thank you. And now Amanda will play Breathe Out.
was recently going through some old papers and ran across some goals I had written down 10 years ago for a 10-year outlook. These goals were part of a total color-coded, multi-page binder documenting all aspects of life that would be action planned for perfect balance attainment. Looking over it now, 10 years into the future that my then 32-year-old self was envisioning, I was happy to see we had knocked some things off this list. Non-smoker, check. Have own place, check. And just before turning 43 this month, I can check off some career goals with my new job. And LOL, the goal of have a child was beyond my imagination at that point in time, but has turned out to be the warmest, brightest illumination of my life, especially when it comes to being truthful about balance. I felt proud of the wins on this list, but I also felt a little sadness at how long I have been carrying many other unmet goals and withholding the term balance from my life because of it. Up until about this past year, I had continued to think along these lines of achieving balance through nonstop, super planned self-improvement. And while it would be so life-enriching if I did pick up my guitar and actually learn it, or learn Spanish or sign language with my son like I want to, seeing this human makeover pattern brought into focus that the thing that truly sends everything out of balance is when I get overwhelmed and I lose sight of the sun. When I get behind, when I've lost sleep, when the chores and emails are piling up, when money is tight, when time is too short, when I'm not sure I can trust anyone, when relationships feel strained, when I can't get ahead, when it all adds up to too many sliding in under the wire and too much trying to do it all, when I can't believe the new lows humanity or its systems seem to be stooping to, life starts to feel like the sky is falling or that the sun is gone and will not come back out again. My struggle with balance isn't that I can't find a laundry day routine, and I cannot. It's that my overwhelm can cause me to slip into an alternate universe where suns don't exist. Recognizing and working on this imbalance has led to a more consistent feeling of balance than any of my self-improvement organization routine strategies ever have. I've been working extremely hard to remember and believe that when things feel so overwhelming and dark, all I need to do is remember that the sun still exists and it will come back out. I don't even have to feel the sun or its happiness. I just have to remember it is there and it can and will come back. I just have to remember I will make it to another present moment that will at some point feel more tolerable, maybe even pleasant. Half the battle is recognizing I'm in the dark universe. There are no signposts announcing arrival in the dark universe. In fact, it has purposefully misleading signs that explicitly state this is the real universe. The other half of the battle is activating the remembering of the sun. I have to remember to remember. Both of these are extremely hard for me because when my little Chicken Little nervous system activates, the darkness becomes my view. But if I can just hold on to the idea that the sun is still out there, even though I don't feel it, and 97% of my brain is supporting the reality that it doesn't exist anymore, I can pull through to when the sun really does come back out. It used to take months. Now it can turn around within a day, and some days even within a moment. Thank you, neuroplasticity. Sometimes just recognizing I'm there helps blow a hole in the all-darkness universe reality. Other times, the reminding of the sun comes from touching base with a loved one, or reading a compassionate meme or book, or getting to laugh with my kid after a meltdown from one of us. Sometimes it's just a mantra in my head as I put one foot in front of the other. The sun will come back out. The sun will come back out. Until I catch back up on sleep, and it really does. Thankfully, there is always the heart-touching church service, and the right meds and therapists help a lot too. And funny thing, I figured out how to get my dirty dishes to remind me of the sun. Thanks to the strategy of author and licensed counselor Casey Davis in her book, How to Keep House While Drowning. It's a good one, I recommend it. Davis explained that all I really need to do each night is wash up what dishes we will need in the morning, make some counter space for breakfast preparations, scoop the cat boxes, and we'll be good. I tried this and have been doing it ever since. Some nights I can do a little bit more and get a little ahead. Some nights I have the energy and time to do that day's entire dishes, instead of just adding them to the pile. Now and then, there are some nights I have to skip, especially lately. But the plan is so easy and light that I jump right back in at some point. My dishes pile ebbs and flows, but in general, has had a new shrinking trend. Not long after this, I began to realize that my dishes weren't hissing mean judgments at me anymore. They were murmuring how great things seem to be going, and look at you go. And an understanding, we know you'll get to us, you got this. I found when I approached the sink, I was met with warm, positive feelings of momentum and balance, despite the fact that I continue to never have the counters completely cleaned off from dishes. Somehow that simple routine made my dishes be a reminder that the sun comes back every day. And this helps me more than having clean dishes or a clear counter. I don't mean all this to sound in a toxic positivity way. I'm not just sticking up my chin and grinning because the sun will come out tomorrow. And it's hit or miss whether just thinking about it clears away my cobwebs and sorrow. But it sure does make me more able to bear them. Here's to balance in the next 10 years. I don't think we need a binder. I think we just need to keep showing up. Just be. Accept the present moment and keep learning how to find home in the dark by holding on to the knowledge, just the knowledge of the light's existence till it comes back around. And now Mary Ann will share our joys and concerns.
Hope it's not injured. When we share our joys and concerns with one another, we weave a web of love and care that supports us all. May our web be strong enough to hold the joys and concerns that we hear today. And those too tender to share can be marked by a burning candle. There are some concerns that we need to hold inside, but know that we're all in this together. We have a joy. Paul Ward, our dear Paul, celebrated his marriage to Julie a few weeks back and wanted us all to know. The concern part of the same story is that 2 days before the wedding, Paul was diagnosed with leukemia. He is undergoing daily treatments right now, and he and the family are hoping for a cure. As you digest that information, remember that 2 years ago, this coming Tuesday, marks the second anniversary of Paula's death, Paula Ward's death. And Paul asks to please hold him, hold Julie and his whole family in your love and prayers. Kim is now going to play Kol Nidre. You maybe noticed the cupboard up here. We've seen it before in former years. Comes in with our Jewish friends and their high holidays. Kim is going to play Kol Nidre to help us think about Yom Kippur, which is tonight.
Will you all join me in singing Spirit of Life? Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Morning, everybody. So I was thinking, what if I told you a few times when I totally lost my balance? And actually 5 times. And when I was off balance, how in the end I regained a semblance of dignity. I'll be brief. Number 1. There I sat on this 12-inch by 12-inch square of plywood in my usual principal's outfit, my sport coat and my tie, and knees to chest in the parking lot outside Old Mission Peninsula School where I was principal. It was carnival night. It was warm and breezy, late May. The parent leaders had filled a dunk tank with mercifully warm water from the kitchen tap, and the 5th grade boys especially were yucking it up, waiting in line for their turn to throw 3 softballs at the target and knock me off balance into the tank. And in I went, repeatedly. When I transferred later to another school to principal, the parent leaders there missed the memo about the warm water, but laughing off falling into a dunk tank is actually pretty easy. Number 2. 10 years ago on opening day of trout season, I lost my balance wading in the Asable River and did a face plant into the April cold water, filling my waders and scaring me that I was being drawn into the deeper water. I managed a 6-inch push-up against the gravel and dragged myself to the bank. And the next time, I relented to using an old guy wading staff. Human physical balance, or equilibrioception, is the result of a number of sensory systems working together: the eyes, the inner ear, and the body's sense of where it is in space. Ideally, each of these need to be intact. Cycles of balance and imbalance occur in any system, be it physical, emotional, occupational, social, spiritual, intellectual, environmental, financial, and so on. But on a personal level, we're lucky if being off kilter is just embarrassing or inconvenient. Other times, it can be devastating or disorienting or filled with regret or fear. Number 3. I learned that I had rheumatoid arthritis 30 years ago or so. It affected my wrists and ankles, and by the end of a workday, I was spent. I was afraid of what lay ahead. But 10 years of good meds, a good doctor, and a shift in focus to what I could do made a difference. My doc now uses the word remission. To say I was off balance then, both emotionally and physically, in my immune system, would have been an understatement. Better balance took living with the unknown, some depression, some refocusing, and some luck. I'm grateful I'm pain-free right now. Fingers crossed. Wrists and ankles too. Number 4. My dad's death totally threw me. At that point in my inexperience, death happened to other people. My emotional system responded with a free-floating fear, sadness and loss I expected, amorphous dread I did not. Restoring my equilibrium came after both my mom and my brother also died. It occurred when I retired and finally became a member of this congregation. In Death Cafe and Shantadiva Fan Club, I got to be friends with some older and younger and wiser folks who had more up-close experience with death. A widened experience began to grow for me. Nothing dramatic, just gradual acceptance and reordering of things. UU helped me define and seek more spiritual and intellectual balance. Number 5. When I was a kid, being raised in the Methodist church, I believed in God. I stopped attending church when I went to college, but I still turned to God in times of upset or confusion. I still saw the world as having a benevolent force that looked out for people, that was evolving toward the good. But in my 50s, my faith that a God existed started to feel a little shaky. Science and atheist friends and writers began to make a bit of sense to me. And for the past 15 years, I really haven't known if there's a God, at least as previously conceived. But I'm okay with not knowing. The questions sustain me. I still try to believe in myself and others, and love my neighbor, and stay open to mystery. Do you know how many people have lived on this planet? No data exists for more than 99% of the span of human existence, but still, with relative confidence, demographers estimate that 117 billion members of our species have been born on Earth. I would add that they all lost their balance in some form or another and probably recovered it too. Thornton Wilder wrote in his play By the Skin of Our Teeth, "It will all be the same in 100 years." So is it really a problem if we fall and pick ourselves and each other back up? I don't think that matters. What does matter to me when I lose my equilibrium is trying to discern my inner voice and listening all around. What matters is mustering empathy when someone I count on loses their balance. What matters is forgiveness of self and others and learning. And like Pema Chodron says, fail, fail again, but fail better. Sometimes in meditation, I realize I'm mentally writing a grocery list or regretting a thoughtless word or worrying about something that hasn't happened. I try to let it go and gently refocus on my breath. In Buddhism, equanimity refers to a state of mental balance and even-mindedness. It involves maintaining an inner calm and steadiness regardless of external circumstances. This is an ultimate goal. In the meantime, I'll just try to not trip over my own 2 feet. Will you join us now for our closing hymn, number 73, Chant for the Seasons?
Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us.
Changes abound around us, between us, within us, in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in our beloved faith community. May we each find the balance point we need as we move through our ever-changing world. The balance between the old and the new, the balance between the known and the unknown, the balance with the familiar and perhaps the bold and risky possibilities that may be out there waiting. I will now release the flame.
Thank you all for being here with us today. In closing, I want to share these words by Andrew Pakula. May you know fully and deeply the blessings of each of your heart's seasons, inward turning of winter, springtime's lush renewal, the effortless, steady growth of summer, and autumn's rich harvest. May your passage from season to season be blessed, eased by hands to hold, and by the light of love to guide you. May it be so. And now I do have some quick announcements. First of all, we really need some help with RE, especially coming up on October 1st and 15th. Our usual helpers and our only RE staff members are not available to help on those days. And our children and families deserve a stable program. Many of them rely on it as a way to connect with our community. And if we don't have support, we may need to cancel RE on those days. So please let Reverend Alex know if you'd be willing to assist with our RE program on October 1st and 15th. And you can see the recent flash announcement that went out earlier for more information. And we also really, really need greeters. And it is not a really onerous job. It just means getting here early, passing out hymnals, collecting the offering. But it's essential. I mean, it's the first contact that people have when they walk through that door. So it's really important. So please see Chris Lotz if you're able to sign up to be a greeter. And lastly, our congregation is hosting the Versity Blood Drive, Wednesday, September 27th, from 3 to 7:30 p.m. And we all know how important it is to have a good, healthy supply of blood. So please, if you're able to contribute to that, do that. And now I will say go in peace, and on your way out, please enjoy more music from Anne Marie and Kim. And please, I want to give a special thanks to Jolynn Page for stepping in, at the last minute for this service. Thank you.